Welcome back, MTG Joe here. We're here for another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. We get these stats from Untapped GG, companion tool that runs alongside your Arena client, tracks your win rates, loss rates, deck sync collection, tells you decks you can build, a whole bunch of useful stuff, in-game overlays. Link is in the video description if you want to get started for free with Untapped. Just click the link and follow through. I'll paste all the deck lists inside of the video description as well if you just want to copy paste. But when you have like Untapped, you can just click the button, copy to MTGA, and then easily import as well. This video is for standard best of 3. If you're looking for best of 1 standard, other formats like Explorer, Historic, Alchemy, you can check out in the video playlist. And we'll kind of post these every week. So make sure to subscribe if you're into this type of content. We also do gameplay on the channel as well. So this is the week of July 10th to the 17th. Platinum to Mythic rank, 17,000 matches, so 34 to 51,000 games of Magic because it's best of 3. The top performing deck of the week is, they're calling it Temur Modified. I think it's like Temur Treasures is more appropriate. But we're using the Jaspera Magda package to try to get ahead on mana. Ideally, as early as turn 3, you're able to cast Goldspan Dragon. And now you have like Fable the Mirror Breaker to make copies of what you copy with Esika's Chariot, just like layers to that. Or no. Chariot makes copies of the copies. You make a Fable Mirror Breaker that copies the copies that copies as it is. And then you got Titan of Industry on the top end. So your Titans can make copies of your Titans with your Chariots making copies of your Titans. It's just a whole kit and caboodle. Stormseekers as well to give haste to stuff. Because you got a bunch of treasures, Voltage Surge is basically 1 mana deal 4 a lot of times in this deck. Big mana deck wants Shatterskull Smashings. And then the blue mana with this deck from a teamer perspective is for negates as well as Disdainful Strokes. It's basically a Gruul deck that has counter spells post board, in part because you have pathways to easily cast those effects. Your sideboard, what do we got in here? We got a whole bunch of burn for different matchups. Aggressive decks, choose your poison. Then we also got some Disdainful Strokes and negates for the creature heavy matchups, or like the Control-y Hinata style matchups, or like the black-white big mana decks. Stuff like that, like Esper and stuff like that. Plummet deals with like Hinata or Goldspan Dragon decks. Into the Roil just as catch-all bounce. Rangers class for the grindier matchups. It's basically card advantage in a way. Some Bankbusters for the grindier matchups. And then Hullbreaker Horror would slot in against like decks that may have Disdainful Strokes of their own. You could come in instead of a Titan of Industry to have an uncounterable threat. Speaking of Hinata, the next deck, 64%. Jeskai Hinata, basically a control deck in Is It Colors that's using Hinata as pretty much the only white card in the main board except Valorous Stance. Reduces the cost of targeted effects, meaning Magma Opus can cost as little as 2 mana in this deck. The rest of the deck is just a combination of counter spells as well as burn-based damage. That allows you to then get your Hinata out. Hinata also, for counter spells, costs 1 less because of Hinata. You also have the Fable the Mirror Breaker with Goldspan. Pretty much every deck is either a Fable deck or like a Vanishing Verse deck in Standard, which kind of gets a little stale. You got some Bankbusters to grind as well. Similar in the sideboard, you got your burn package when you need burn. You got your counter spells when you need counter spells, and you got your grind with more Bankbusters as well. Then we got Mono Green Stompy Stomps. So this is a snow mana base that allows you to use Sculptor of Winter to ramp up, as well as Blizzard Ball. Ideally, you want to go turn 2 into turn 4, one of these effects, either Chariot or Uvenwald to kind of put pressure. You can make copies with your Invoke the Ancients with your Esika's Chariots. This will allow you to get 4/5s, but notably the counters that you get on these do not get copied. It's so you create the 2 spirits and then you get to put counters on them. The creatures themselves don't have the embedded abilities, so keep that in mind if you're trying to get like 2 creatures with trample or reach or whatever it may be. The rest of the deck, you got like Pack Leader for card advantage, as well as Rangers class. You have the 6 fight spells and inscriptions as Blizzard Brawl. Some Old Growth Trolls, Pack Leaders, and then a protection spell in Tamiyo Safekeeping. Sideboard's going to be like protect your stuff with like Snakeskin, more fight effects and like Tendrils and Master's Rebuke. Artifact and Enchantment, Exile and Mass Vandal, similar with Outland Liberator. Some grind effects with Bankbuster, Graveyard Hate from Froghemoth, and then a Boseiju just for like the auras or like runes, sorry, not auras, runes matchups, or like anvil decks, stuff like that. It's uncounterable in that regard when you want this effectively as a spell. Jump into Esper midrange. Esper kind of connive, planeswalkery money pile. If this was in like paper, this probably costs a lot of money, I'm guessing. $530 US. So what you're doing with this deck, it's kind of built around Rafine, churning through your deck. You can get back like copies of Tenacious Underdog. You also have like Obscura Interceptor to tempo play. Brutal Cathars, Infernal Grasp as removal. You got some counter spells with Vanishing Verse and Meat Hook for more removal. You got your Whiting Announcements as like Anthem effects, Luminarch to pump your team, then Wandering Emperor, Lulth, Elspeth. Just a lot of like individually good cards all thrown together in a deck, and Rafine lets you kind of slice and dice what you need in particular matchups. If you don't need removal, you can throw it away and you can get counter spells, or you can get threats, whatever it may be in that regard. And the theme of a lot of these sideboards, do we kill something or do we counter something? Or just kind of get card advantage. So you have like anti-control, blue or white, mono white aggro, Boros aggro, Hinata decks, you bring in the raise, some removal options, Ledger Shredders for any deck that's like aggressive in nature, that's playing multiple spells like ruins or stuff like that. You can kind of filter through your library. I keep saying runes. Like anvil decks, like cheap stuff like that, where you want to kind of look through your deck. Graveyard Hate, more removal, grind value against like control, sweeper, and then the rest of your angels. Then we have Is It Dragons. We haven't really seen just a pure Is It Dragons list in a while, but very similar to the Hinata deck. You're basically substituting the Hinata element for more early interaction. You got like expressive iterations in there, your counter spells, Wandering Mind, Galaceth Prismari, as well as then your treasure package. So it's again just kind of like a kill or counter everything early, Fable to ideally copy your Goldspans and win through your Dragons or your Hall of the Storm Giants. And then very similar counter spells, removal spells, some card advantage, some more threats in there as well. Stealing big creatures like mono green, stuff like runes, Hullbreaker Horrors, and counterable threat. Tempo out your opponent in like the blue-based matchups where you'll see stuff like Disdainful Stroke and stuff like that come in. Then lastly, Boros aggro, very similar to the best of one version. Just a lot of hasty creatures that get bigger through counters, stuff like Luminarch Aspirant, Thundering Raiju. You got Burn in like Royal Eruption, Play with Fire, Sunrise Cavalier, just a trample threat you can throw a bunch of counters on. Just this deck's really looking to turn things sideways and smash face. In at least best of one, it's one of the decks that has a very high win rate against the Jeskai Hinata decks, so an option to kind of go with there. Your sideboard, you have the Kami's Flare as a way to deal damage both to creature and to your opponent's face through modified creatures. Your attacks in the control decks with Thalia, removal and protection. In the creature matchups, you have Angel Fire to help you race, and then Spellbinder to tax your opponent. So really, like for example, what you'd probably want to do is scale back on like some of these one drops maybe, or some of the burn, and then the Brutal Cathars against like these Goldspan Dragon decks, and then bring in your Spellbinders, bring in your Thalias to kind of slow them down in that regard. So that's pretty much it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, what formats, if it's best of 3 standard, if it's other formats, what it may be. And we will catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, or at least, drop a comment. Tell me your favorite card in standard. Helps out the channel, confuses the YouTube algorithm, whatever it may be, helps out. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.